Dear students, first we shall know the meanings of the idiomatic expressions used in the part 2 of the play. As you all know that the actual meaning of an idiomatic expression is different from the literal meaning, or I can say that in an idiomatic expression there are two or more words whose meaning changes as they have been used with other words in the idiomatic expression. You need to know the meanings of such idiomatic expressions so that you can understand the humor in the play. So, shall we start? The first phrase is what the devil or what the dickens. Both these idiomatic expressions have almost similar meaning. It is an old fashioned way of showing displeasure or annoyance, or in other words, you can say it's an old fashioned way of showing your anger. Drat me, it is an interjection for expressing anger or annoyance. Right enough. In the play or in the second part of the play, one of the characters says, I am right enough. Here, enough doesn't mean sufficient. It means when somebody says, I am right enough, it means certainly. Strike you or strike me. One of the characters in the play says, does that strike you? It means to cause someone to think in a particular way, or you can say to influence someone. Dear students, now let us know the contextual meaning of a few words used in the play. I use the word contextual because depending upon the context, the meaning of a word may change. So the first word is thrust, a push. Retreat means to go back. The armed forces retreated as ordered by the High Command. Gingerly, in a cautious manner. Tomfoolery means foolish behavior. Haste means swiftness, or you can say hurry. Vindictive, having a tendency to seek revenge. Chuckle means a quiet laugh. Double-faced means treacherous, or you can say one who has a tendency to cheat someone. Jolly means joyful. Thumping, to hit something with a sound. Aye, yes, it is an old fashioned way to say yes. Consternation means amazement. The Dear Departed Part 2. When I am reading, please try to recollect the meanings of the words that we had discussed earlier. Abel, what's the matter with little Vicky? He sees Ben and Mrs. Jordan. Hello, what brings you here? How's yourself, Ben? Abel thrusts his hand at Ben, who skips back smartly and retreats with Mrs. Jordan to a safe distance below the sofa. Mrs. Slater, approaching Abel gingerly, Father, is that you? She pokes him with a hand to see if he is solid. Abel, of course it's me. Don't do that, Amelia. What the devil do you mean by this tomfoolery? Mrs. Jordan, you took us by surprise, Father. Are you keeping quite well? Abel, trying to catch the words. What? Mrs. Jordan, are you quite well? Abel, I am right enough, but for a bit of a headache. Looking at Amelia, Amelia, what the dickens did I do with my new slippers? Mrs. Slater, confused. Aren't they by the hearth, Father? Abel, I don't see them. Observing Henry trying to remove the slippers. Why you have got 'em on, Henry? Mrs. Slater, promptly, I told him to put them on to stretch them. They were that new and hard. Now, Henry. Mrs. Slater snatches the slippers from Henry and gives them to Abel, who puts them on and sits in the armchair. Mrs. Jordan to Ben, well, I don't call that delicate stepping into a dead man's shoes in such haste. Victoria runs across to Abel and sits on the floor at his feet. Victoria, oh Grandpa, I'm so glad you're not dead. Mrs. Slater, in a vindictive whisper, hold your tongue, Victoria. Abel, hey, what's that? Who's gone dead? Mrs. Slater, loudly, Victoria says she's sorry about your head. Abel, ah, thank you, Vicky, but I'm feeling better. Abel, why, Ben, you are in mourning? And Lizzie too, and Amelia, and Henry, and little Vicky. Who's gone dead? It's someone in the family? He chuckles. Mrs. Slater, no one you know, father, a relation of Ben's. Abel, and what relation of Ben's? Mrs. Slater, his brother. Ben, to Mrs. Slater, damn it, I never had one. Abel, dear, dear, and what was his name, Ben? Ben, at a loss. He crosses to front of table. Mrs. Slater, right side of table prompting, Frederick. Mrs. Jordan, left side of table prompting, Albert. Ben, Fred, Isaac. Abel, Isaac? And where did your brother Isaac die? Ben, in Australia. Abel, rising. Well, I suppose you've only been waiting for me to begin tea. I am feeling hungry. Mrs. Slater, taking up the kettle. I'll make tea. Abel, come along now. Sit you down and let's be jolly. Abel sits at the head of the table facing spectators. Abel, suddenly recollecting, hey, Amelia and Henry, what the devil did you mean by shifting my bureau out of my bedroom? Henry and Mrs. Slater are speechless. Do you hear me? Henry, Amelia? Mrs. Jordan, what bureau was that, father? Abel, why? My bureau, the one I bought. Mrs. Jordan, pointing to the bureau, was it the one, father? Abel, ah, that's it. What's it doing there, eh? A pause. The clock on the mantelpiece strikes 6. Everyone looks at it. Drat me, if that isn't my clock too. What the devil's been going on in this house? A slight pause. Ben, well, I'll be hanged. Mrs. Jordan, rising. I'll tell you what's been going on in this house, father. Nothing short of robbery. Mrs. Slater, be quiet, Elizabeth. Mrs. Jordan, I'll not be quiet. Oh, I call it double-faced. Henry, now, Elizabeth. Mrs. Jordan, and you too? Are you such a poor creature that you must do every dirty thing she tells you? Abel, rising, thumping the table. Damn it all, will someone tell me what's been going on? Mrs. Jordan, yes, I will. I will not see you robbed. Abel, who's been robbing me? Mrs. Jordan, Amelia and Henry. They've stolen your clock and bureau. Working herself up, they sneaked into your room like thieves in the night and stole them after you were dead. Henry and Mrs. Slater, shh, quiet, Elizabeth. Mrs. Jordan, I'll not be stopped. After you were dead, I say. Abel, after who was dead? Mrs. Jordan, you. Abel, but I'm not dead. Mrs. Jordan, no, but they thought you were. A pause. Abel gazes round at them. Abel, oh ho, so that's why you're all in black today. You thought I was dead. He chuckles. That was a big mistake. He sits and resumes his tea. Mrs. Slater, sobbing, Father. Abel, it didn't take you long to start dividing my things between you. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Since your mother died, I have lived part of the time with you, Amelia, and part with you, Lizzie. Well, I shall make a new will, leaving all my bits of things to whoever I am living with when I die. How does that strike you? Mrs. Jordan, you know, Father, it's quite time you came to live with us again. We'd make you very comfortable. Mrs. Slater, no, he's not been with us as long as he was with you. Mrs. Jordan, I may be wrong, but I don't think Father will fancy living on with you after what's happened today. Abel, it seems to me that neither of you has any cause to feel proud about the way you have treated me. Mrs. Slater, if I have done anything wrong, I am sure I am sorry for it. Mrs. Jordan, and I can't say more than that too. Abel, it's a bit late to say it now. Neither of you cared to put up with me. Mrs. Slater and Mrs. Jordan. No, no, father. Abel. I. You both say that because of what I have told you about leaving my money. Well, since you don't want me, I'll go to someone that does. Ben. Come, Mr. Merriweather, you've got to live with one of your daughters. Abel, I'll tell you what I've got to do. On Monday next, I've got to do three things. I've got to go to the lawyer and alter my will, and I've got to go to the insurance office and pay my premium, and I've got to go to St. Philip's Church and get married. Ben and Henry, what? Mrs. Jordan, get married? Mrs. Slater, he is out of his senses. General consternation. Abel, I say I am going to get married. Mrs. Slater, who to? Abel, to Mrs. John Shorrocks, who keeps the Ringo bells. We have had it fixed up a good while now, but I was keeping it for a pleasant surprise. He rises. I felt I was a bit of a burden to you, so I found someone who'd think it a pleasure to look after me. We shall be very glad to see you at the ceremony. He gets to the door. Till Monday then, 12 o'clock at St. Philip's Church. Opening the door. It's a good thing you brought that bureau downstairs, Amelia. It'll be handier to carry it across to the Ringo bells on Monday. He goes out. The curtain falls. As you all know, this has been written by the famous playwright William Stanley Houghton.